People hate the chair. People hate the big chair. And I've come to realize that maybe it wasn't the best purchase just because of how much people antagonize me over the course of the workday. They say the big chair is in the way. I say you're in the way of the big chair.
The big chair is in the way.
It's a big... Hey, folks. I have the biggest office chair...
Ever.
Probably in my company.
That has ever existed.
Maybe on the East Coast.
For some reference... No, we need to back it up a little bit. For some reference, when Dylan purchased this chair, it said that the weight was 450 pounds?
That's what I thought it said. That was actually the price. So the price was $450, which was discounted to $250 because of Black Friday deals.
Okay.
And it turns out the weight was about 50 to 100 pounds.
But
at most.
But Dylan thought that getting this chair, that what he thought would be a 400-pound chair would be coming to him. Is that not what you thought?
That is what I thought. I thought that there was a chair so big it weighed 450 pounds.
And he purchased it. He knew this was a big chair.
Mm-hmm.
He saw that it was 450 units of something. He assumed that that meant that the chair was 450 pounds and yet still purchased it. And now he's complaining.
It has been a controversial choice.
That people are complaining.
Since then, I've had people leave notes on my desk.
Passive-aggressive notes?
I've had people call me in the middle of the night and not say anything and just breathe into the receiver. A snake started manifesting in my home.
That's terrifying.
Somebody is doing some kind of witchcraft. And I don't understand...
Is it Kate? Kate's a witch.
Shout out Kate for manifesting snakes in my home. I think that more people should get bigger chairs instead of having smaller ones. And that's just maybe my opinion. Is it the right opinion? Yeah.
So I would, usually agree with you. I'm a fan of a big chair.
Yeah.
I love a big chair. Give me a big comfy recliner. That's all I need in life. But in an office setting where the aisles are designed for two normal-sized chairs, and then you have this behemoth of cylinder, essentially, in the middle of the floor. A Dylander. A Dylander, if you will.
If you will?
If you will. I won't. But you have to move the chair out of the way if you want to move your body through the aisle.
Right. And I think that the polite thing to do when I get up from my seat is to push the chair in myself, but I really just can't be bothered.
And that's the other part of the problem, see? So most people, being the respective humans that they are, they tend to push their chairs in whenever they leave.
Yeah, that's true.
Dylan does not. So not only does he have this giant-ass chair that's already hard to navigate through, but then he also does not push the chair in whenever he is not in it.
I don't. And
so it's just there in the middle of the aisle.
Yeah.
In the way.
This isn't even a new problem because many years ago, before I had the big chair, I had another coworker tell me, "Hey, Dylan, when you get up from your seat, can you push your chair back to the desk?"
Somebody told you that?
Yes. I said, sure. I'll be more mindful of that. And you know what? I'm not more mindful of that.
No, you're not.
In fact, it brings me a small amount of joy just to inconvenience other people.
Yeah, I've gathered that. I've definitely gathered that.
Yeah.
It's just your personality.
I guess so. Now, will I get a smaller chair? Maybe, because the big chair that I got is actually kind of a piece of shit.
What do you mean?
The right arm rest has already snapped because I was getting a little loose with it. I was getting relaxed in my chair and leaning back with the footrest. By the way, this thing has a footrest. And I leant back a bit too far, and the piece of shit plastic shattered. And
there has been a lot of plastic on the floor as of late, and there never was before. Every now and then I'll be like, what is this black piece of plastic? And they're like, oh, it's right by Dylan's desk. It must be from his chair.
Yeah. And the seat of the chair, the seat of the chair is already scraping off.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Fucking broken ass armrest.
I feel so sad for you. Genuinely, this is not sarcasm. Everybody, please. I actually feel really bad because you were so excited about this chair. And I really feel excited. Really bad that this has been such a bad purchase.
I was delighted when I first bought it. I couldn't wait.
Like a child on Christmas, except like the cheeriest, chipperest child you've ever seen. He was a rosy-cheeked Dylan.
I was a little true brick man.
You were.
And the thing came to my apartment, which is about a 5-minute walk, shorter drive from the
so that's the other thing,
office.
People. Dylan ordered what he thought to be a 450-pound chair delivered to his home. And how was he going to transport this to the office?
I thought my Nissan Juke. The smallest car ever made by a man.
And you thought that you could lift this 450-pound behemoth into your Nissan Juke.
I was a little overconfident. And even though it was much lighter than 450 pounds, I had to sort of push it lengthwise, lift it up, push it lengthwise, down my hall, up the ramp. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to open the back car of my Juke. I'm going to try to shove it in. And I push the chair into the back seat. And after hoisting it, I pressed with my back with all my might, my little feet kicking underneath me to shove this thing into the back seat. And God knows how, but maybe there was a third man with me that day because I managed to somehow compress it into the Nissan Juke, drive it to the office, somehow yank it out, which was harder, and then assembled it at my desk where it sits now, much to the chagrin of everyone that I work with.
Well, Dylan, that's how it broke.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean? You're flipping it vertically down the hallway. You're dragging it. You're shoving it.
Yeah.
That's probably how it broke.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, it's So here's a little cautionary tale for people who want to get a big chair.
Yeah, I'm here for some sad music.
Folks, don't do it. You think you want it. Just get a large, medium-sized chair instead of the large-size chair. And you can save yourself just a lot of heartache and avoid threats to your health and your safety. Anyway. Now, what's new with you, Madison?
Nothing much. I messed my hand up.
You absolutely fucked your hand.
I did.
That thing is rough.
I did.
So tell me the story of how you like somersaulted over a curb.
Yeah. So here's the thing, guys. Apparently, falling isn't just for the elderly or 5-year-olds.
Not anymore.
Falling is for everybody. And I think that's what makes it the most embarrassing, because you reach a certain age and you're like, I know how to walk. And then you fall.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell, man? Like, I know how to walk.
Curb came out of nowhere.
It did. It's so embarrassing. I think that's the most embarrassing. I don't think it's embarrassing that, like, if somebody falls, I'm not like, oh, like, haha, maybe a little bit. But, like, it's mostly embarrassing just because, like, you're a grown-ass woman. I'm a grown-ass woman. I'm falling.
Yeah.
Flailing around.
Yeah.
Like, how?
You know, the crazy thing is the absolute delight that you seem to take describing the wound and showing it to people.
That is
a little disconcerting
on my face right now.
Yeah.
It is really enjoyable. So it is, my hand is fucked, as Dylan said.
Absolutely fucked.
So I tripped on a curb, came out of nowhere. And it was a little slow at first. I thought I was going to catch myself, and then it was just very, very fast. And my hand my palm took the full weight of me and just got obliterated on the concrete.
You're very much in the arms of the angels.
I really was. And it's also a little bruised, which you can't see the bruise, but you can feel the bruise for sure. It hurts along on top of the skin being gone. So I won't go into detail for you guys because you don't have a choice. yes, you can skip forward. But so
I wish I could skip forward.
yeah, I showed Dylan it. I was describing it to him, and the disgust,
I was gagging the whole time.
The disgust on his face.
You were like, yeah, I had to pick pieces of like gravel out of my hand.
I did.
Underneath the skin layer.
I did.
And then sort of put the skin back on. What did you say exactly?
I said, well, because I couldn't take care of it right away. I was going to an appointment. So the skin had dried a little and it started to heal, but I hadn't cleaned it out. So whenever I got home, I had to take tweezers and peel the skin off. That was already off. That was coagulating back to my hand. And I had to basically reskin my hand and then clean the gravel out.
Stop. Please stop.
You asked. You told me to do it.
I don't.
You literally told me to.
I've heard two awful words that people shouldn't hear in such quick succession over the course of a few days. Yeah.
Coagulate?
Correct.
I love that word.
Do you remember the second one?
Dermis.
Dermis. Yes. Dermis and coagulate.
I'll never forget because Dylan was so disgusted.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the other thing. So the reason why my hand is like fucked is because, I keep describing it this way because this is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
You know how second degree burns hurt the worst because it like exposes the nerve endings?
Sure.
Well, I have like a second degree cut essentially where it has gone through 2 layers of dermis and the nerve endings are exposed, which is why it looks so gross and it hurts like a bitch.
We'll put this on the Instagram so everyone can see.
Yeah, we were at karaoke last night and my Band-Aid came off and I said, Dylan, you want to see it? He said, no, not really, do I? And I said, no, you don't, but I'm going to show you anyway. And I showed him.
Yeah, that was absolutely disgusting. Wild night of karaoke, though. Me, you, and John went, and it was more like a comedy open mic than a karaoke night.
It was a weird energy. It was a blast.
Yeah. It was fun.
It was.
Some guy sang the song from the Skeletor.
Go ahead.
I'm going to edit this. The Skeletor cartoon. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
He sang it very dramatically. He sang the banana song as well.
Not the Deo banana song. It's called Banana Man. I looked it up because it was unironically a bop.
It was actually pretty good. He did a great job.
He did a very good job.
His name was Fox.
Yes.
And he was dressed exactly how you would imagine.
Exactly.
Apollo was also there.
Apollo. Fucking
He was kind of like a mainstay at the karaoke every Thursday.
If anybody ever says anything mean about Apollo, I will personally, physically fight them. I will shove my gross hand down their face and I will fight them.
You were beaten by a curb, so I don't think people are all that intimidated. But honestly, Apollo was really living his truth.
He always is.
He was wearing a anime girl shirt.
Yes.
He was doing the hand motions.
Apollo is a karaoke staple, and he is just living his best life. He's just the happiest person. He performs his heart out during karaoke.
Yes.
He has full choreography, full performance energy. Like he's on a stage in front of millions of people. I was going to say thousands, but that's not true. It's like he's on stage for millions of big gestures. He is just
He really swings and he hits every time.
He does. He has these glow sticks that he uses to rock the night.
Yeah.
Oh.
Gosh, the air pressure changes in the room when he walks in.
You hold your breath because you're just waiting for him to do something amazing, and it always is.
It's like you get a shiver, and it's like, is a hurricane coming?
No,
it's like, no, Apollo just has to go up on stage.
Yep.
At open mic karaoke.
Yep.
Welcome, folks.
To My Existential Crisis, the podcast where we talk about all the things that make us question our entire sense of self. My name is Madison Epley.
And my name is Dylan Berger. And before we get into the music, I just want to say how absolutely awful I did during the first song in karaoke. I did a song by Sturgill Simpson, and I pretty much blasted that song with 20 Predator missiles all at the same time. I fucked it up so bad. I missed the first line. I did the lyrics wrong. I skipped a few parts. I literally said in the microphone, fuck!
It was amazing. Afterward, I asked him if he was speaking English. And I was only partially kidding.
Holy shit.
But anyway.
But there's always next karaoke night, you know? Anyway, folks, enjoy the show. There's a mountain in Nagari Prefecture in Tibet that you're not allowed to climb. The Chinese government prohibits climbers due to the mountain's religious significance, a significance shared across Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Tibet's indigenous religion, Bon, all of which hold the mountain sacred in some way.
Jainism?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you talk about Jainism before?
Briefly.
Because then I made the joke. Is that
Jainism?
Jainism? Okay, I was going to make the joke again. I was like, wait a minute. I've done this
No,
before.
that's just a lot of people's religion.
Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like a...
Yeah, it is just a lot of people's religion, actually.
I feel like a dick. I feel so...
Just gonna let that sit.
Oh, no! Please delete that.
All the Jainists...
What is Jainism? I've never heard of that before.
Jainism is an Eastern religion.
Dylan's making fun of me for making fun of it, and he doesn't know a damn thing about anything.
I don't know about Jainism exactly, but we're going to be talking a little bit about it today.
Okay, cool. Now,
before I continue on to why the mountain is held sacred, let me give you some facts about Mount Kailash. Let's do some scene setting.
Okay.
The mountain lies in the western part of the Tibetan Plateau. Its peak rests at 21,778 feet near the western dry junction of China, India, and Nepal. It's located on the banks of the Rakshastal and Mansarovar lakes, and the sources of 4 rivers exist in this region, those rivers being the Indus, Sutlej, Brahmaputra, and Karnali rivers. We don't spend nearly enough time talking about geography on this podcast, so I'm trying to catch up all at once.
Podcast, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We don't do that here.
Now, as for trekking the mountain itself, people from the surrounding regions come to Kailash as part of a holy pilgrimage, but no successful ascents have ever been formally recorded.
Okay.
I say formally because we're going to get into it.
The wild doe cat takes a drink of his Celsius and wipes away a tear.
No, it splashed on me. Now, I consider myself pretty well versed in the weirdness of the world.
Yes.
I love exploring strange and bizarre topics. As a child, I was the exact target demographic for Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Yo, me too!
Yeah, and I believed it every single time. Love those books. But somehow, it wasn't until this past month that I learned about this mountain. And I bring this up because there's so much strangeness attached to this place. Have you ever heard of Mount Kailash?
I've never heard of it.
Well, we're going to get into it.
Hot dog.
Let's have a tracker for every time Madison says some corny-ass line. Hot dog! You sound like a 1930s mayor. Hot dog! Holy shit.
You should have started that tracker a long time ago.
Yeah. Now, in Sanskrit, the ancient Indo-European language of India, the mountain is called Kailasa, possibly derived from the word Kailasa, meaning crystal. The mountain has other names depending on your culture. It's been called Snow Jewel Mountain, Precious Snow Mountain, Water's Flower, Mountain of Seawater, and 9 Stacked Swastikas Mountain. Which, you know, thank God it's not 10.
Wait, actually?
Yes.
Oh, I was going to say, those are lovely. And I was literally about to say, that's lovely. These are all so lovely.
Well, you know, as has been brought up in conversations before, it was like a symbol and...
Well, I was going to say, in indigenous cultures, the swastika was a symbol of peace.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was bastardized
yes,
by the Nazis.
The Nazis were very into esotericism.
Yeah.
Which is maybe the subject for another episode. However, if you're interested, watch Indiana Jones.
Yeah, guys.
And that's everything you need to know.
Get educated.
Get educated about swastikas and Nazis. Thank you, Madison.
You're welcome.
Now, Mount Kailash has different meanings to the various cultures that hold it sacred. For Hindus, the mountain is known as the home of Shiva, the god of destruction. It's alleged that Shiva resides there with his consort and children. Descriptions have Shiva sitting in the lotus position, meditating within the mountain. For Buddhists, Mount Kailash is known as the mythological Mount Meru. It represents the father of the world, where the lake Mansarovar symbolizes the mother. And numerous sites in the area are associated with Padmasambhava, who we covered on our episode about the Himalayan Book of the Dead.
Yes.
Yes, Padmasambhava was the one who spontaneously dictated that text.
Okay.
Before it was discovered later on, maybe through channeling. Now, for the Bon people, Mount Kailash is the home of the sky goddess Sipaiman. According to ancient Tibetan beliefs shared by the Bon people, the mountain was the center of the universal mandala and the source of the rivers described earlier. Jainists also consider the mountain holy, and it appears in their scriptures as well, serving as a place of liberation from the cycle of death and rebirth. Now, we have some cultural context for the importance of the mountain, and naturally, with such strong spiritual ties to so many different religions, people want to climb the thing.
I would.
Yeah, it makes sense. You know, it's a point of curiosity for adventurers. Personally, I wouldn't necessarily want to climb all over the home of Shiva the Destroyer. I don't want to get destructed.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
When you put it that way.
But there have been a lot of climbers throughout history who have been given the chance, and here's where we get into the climbers. In 1926, there was an attempt to ascend Mount Kailash. Colonel R.C. Wilson, with the aid of a Sherpa named Setson, scoped out the mountain and found a possible way to the summit on the southeast ridge. However, during the climb, they were stopped by heavy snowfall. 10 years later, one Herbert Tichy was itchy to try. When he asked the locals about it, a Tibetan leader gave a cryptic reply, and I quote, "Only a man entirely free of sin could climb Kailash, and he wouldn't have to actually scale the sheer walls of ice to do it. He just turned himself into a bird and fly to the summit."
The hell?
You think that's what Herbert said?
Yeah.
When he heard that, he was like, what the hell are you
What are
talking
you
about?
talking about?
Now, apparently, Tichy was neither free of sin nor a bird, so he turned back.
Yeah, he said, what the fuck? And he's like,
Yeah, he was like,
fuck that shit.
this is a bit much.
Yeah.
Many years later, in the 80s, Italian mountaineer Reinhold Messner was given permission from the Chinese government.
I talked about him.
Was this in the Third Man episode?
Yes.
Well, he shows up again.
That's crazy.
Yeah, how about that?
Oh my gosh, we just talked about him.
Yeah. Now, he received permission from the Chinese government to climb the mountain, but he said, and I quote, "If we conquer this mountain," should I do this in an Italian accent? Probably not. "If we conquer this mountain, then we conquer something in people's souls. I would suggest they go and climb something a little harder." Which, I don't know about you, but that kind of sounds like an excuse.
Yeah, that sounds like a dick thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, if they want to climb something harder.
Yeah, I don't want to conquer people's souls. I want to do something a little harder.
Yeah.
I want to do harder climbing. Basically saying I do it, but it's too easy.
Yeah.
Now, when I say that there were no formal recordings of anyone reaching the summit of Mount Kailash, that's in recent formally recorded history. According to Tibetan lore, however, there was a Tibetan master named Milarepa. He was famously known as a murderer as a young man.
I was going to say, it's kind of an unfortunate name.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you said something bad about him, and I was like, okay, I can say that.
Just watch me accidentally mispronouncing his name. Could be Milarepa. I don't know. I did not look it up. Now, he was famously known as a murderer as a young man, but he went on to become a well-known and very accomplished disciple of Buddhism. He's highly regarded as a yogi and a poet. And he allegedly climbed to the top of Mount Kailash. When you're looking from the northern side of the mountain, there's a monastery dedicated to Milarepa. Interesting thing. Now, I know not everybody holds the same beliefs about the mountain, but if you think back to literally 2.5 minutes ago, when the Tibetan leader said, "Only a man free of sin could climb the mountain," I'm curious about this connection here because obviously he's murdered people.
Yes.
Which is like the number one sin.
It is.
I don't know how that's compatible exactly. Maybe he was so ascended spiritually that he was able to forgive himself and transcend from his past
forgive
actions.
Himself. That's really noble of him.
Honestly, prisoners should just forgive themselves.
That's all you need.
And then we'll let them out.
That's all you need.
Now, here's where we start to get into the high strangeness. And I'm not talking about the altitude. Pause for laughter, pause for laughter, pause for laughter. That's what it says in my notes. So Mount Kailash is surrounded in quite a fair bit of mystery and intrigue. There's a strange phenomenon experienced by those who visit the mountain. Allegedly, Those who spend 12 hours in proximity to Kailash suffer accelerated aging,
Oh.
specifically in the hair and fingernails. It's said that 12 hours near the mountain is equivalent to 2 weeks of normal time.
Oh, shit. What do you mean?
Now, if you had to venture a guess, if we're talking free of any kind of mysticism, speaking quote unquote realistically, what would you attribute that kind of phenomenon to exactly?
An excess amount of biotin?
Speak on that. What is biotin? Is the chemical in the skin and nails and hair, right?
Yeah, it's a pill that you can take a supplement, a biotin supplement. So if your fingernails are brittle or if your hair needs to be like strengthened, you can take biotin, and it will give you more of that so that your nails grow faster and they grow stronger and your hair grows stronger and thicker.
So there's something in the atmosphere that is either biotin adjacent or supplements biotin in these people's bodies?
By an extreme amount. If it's 2 hours.
Does biotin occur naturally outside of the body?
This is
a very specific question.
Dr. Madison, does biotin occur? I would imagine if we're taking supplements for it, what are we just eating? Fingernails and hoping it grows more fingernails? Like what?
I don't eat fingernails, so I can't respond to that necessarily.
But I would say that, yes, it occurs naturally. I don't know where or when or how.
It's funny you bring up Dr. Madison. Something you said the other day stuck with me.
Something I said?
Yeah, how you were talking about watching a cranioscopy on the plane.
Craniostomy.
Yes. Sorry, Dr.
Okay.
Madison.
Thank you.
And why were you watching that exactly?
So I was on a flight to Disney.
Which is already, watching that content on a flight to Disney is unhinged.
I had it saved in my watch later. I downloaded it to watch on the flight.
Uh-huh.
Do I need to elaborate?
That'd be great.
I was curious. It was fascinating. I was really interested and still am. At the time, I was watching a lot of surgeries and life experiences and procedures on separating conjoined twins. Mm-hmm. And this was one of them. In this instance, the twins were conjoined solely by the backs of their head. Mm. They had some part of the brain that was attached. They had to do brain surgery and then also reconstruct the cranium in each of the twins.
So in this case, 2 heads aren't better than 1.
No, it was not. But then that was whenever they separated them.
Wonderful. One head is better than none.
But that's why I was watching it. Why is it so weird?
I just imagine the
why
person
is
on
so
the
strange?
I imagine the person on the plane next to you side-eyeing your phone, wondering if they are in danger.
It was that, and I watched some botched for some reconstructive facial surgeries. Why is this weird?
Gosh.
Why is this strange?
I feel like there's going to be an episode on you one day.
Maybe.
Gosh.
I used to watch. Have you ever seen Nip Tuck?
No.
Nip Tuck is do you know what botched is?
Yeah.
The 2 plastic surgeons who fix people and do plastic surgery and they have a TV show.
Oh, I thought you said botched.
Yeah, botched.
Oh, I thought just the general phrase. No, I'm not familiar with that show.
Oh, Botched. That's what I was watching.
Okay.
Botched is a reality TV show about 2 plastic surgeons who perform plastic surgery.
Oh.
And I watched the television version of that, Nip Tuck, which was essentially Botched, but TV.
Yeah.
I loved that show so much because they would show full surgeries.
Yes.
I watched so many breast implants from that show, or simulated breast implants, I guess. So many rhinoplasties.
Right. Yeah, Nip Tuck is about the 2 doctors, Nicholas and Tucker. This is correct.
Yes.
So that interest in that show and other things just led you into...
I've always been interested in that stuff. I watched Bones as a child. I wanted to be a forensic anthropologist for a time. In addition to being an actress, I wanted to be an actress / forensic anthropologist.
Damn.
And then I realized I wasn't smart enough for that. You have to know a lot of shit to be to be Bones. You got to know a lot of stuff. You can't just be an expert in one thing. You have to be an expert in all the things. So I was like, okay, maybe I can be an expert in one thing. Maybe I want to be a midwife or an OBGYN.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, because 1, I would just hate being in the medical profession, period. But I also just could not separate myself.
I get that.
So I chose marketing.
The perfect middle ground.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I wanted to be a pastry chef.
A what?
A pastry chef.
A pastry chef?
Yeah.
What kind of pastries did you want to
I
make?
wanted to make
The
cakes.
macaron? Oh!
I want to be a cake chef, which would have been pretty lucrative given how like expensive some of these like novelty cakes are.
Yeah, you could have made big bucks. Wait, you would still be lovely at that. You have the artistic ability.
Thank you very much. I just don't have the baking ability.
We'll team up. I'll make the cakes,
All right.
and then you decorate them because I can't do that.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a team. It's Burger and Epps. Burger and Epps Baking Company.
Burger and Epps. Hope you saved your appetite. Yeah, that'd be the slogan.
Look at that!
Fantastic.
I just shouted at the microphone. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So this particular phenomenon of the fingernails and hairs growing
How are we started with that?
can be understood in a few ways. But the best explanation I found is that pilgrims who undertake the trekking of Mount Kailash go through rigorous physical and mental challenges leading to a heightened awareness of time passing. And also higher altitudes are demanding on the body, resulting in fatigue and exhaustion. Exhaustion. So yeah, there's a reasonable explanation there. Maybe?
I would say no.
No?
I would 100% disagree with that.
So the more
As a
reasonable
doctor.
explanation is
This is a medical podcast.
it's not a geography podcast.
No, it's a medical, fashion, history, politics, opinion podcast.
Fashion.
Fashion. I already said fashion.
Oh, you did?
I did. How about you fashion your ears open?
Oh, I just got owned live on my existential crisis.
No, because like when you're in higher altitude, I don't think like less oxygen doesn't make your hair and fingernails grow faster,
But it's more demanding on the body.
which would make them grow like worse.
So the more reasonable explanation is biotin in the
Listen, I'm not
local
saying-
environment.
I'm not saying it's reasonable, but what I'm saying is the more physical toll you have on your body isn't expending its nutrients to grow your fingernails and hair. It's saving them in every possible way that it can.
That makes sense. So I guess there really isn't an
There
explanation.
isn't an explanation. I think the false perception of time that you said earlier,
Yeah.
I think that's the best one. Or, so here's another fun fact for you.
Okay.
You know how people say...
Buckle up, people.
You know how people say that your hair and nails don't stop growing after you die?
People say that to me often. I'm like, am I going to die soon? Why are you telling me?
Look at your hair and they're like, it's not going to stop growing. It'll keep growing forever.
They're trying to tell me to get a haircut.
Yeah.
I didn't even get a haircut for my brother's wedding. I'm not getting a haircut now. Speaking of which, I had to quick shout him out because he mentioned the other day on a call that he was part of a bachelor party where he and a bunch of his friends dressed up in balaclavas and threw the groom in the trunk of a car.
What the fuck?
It drove him for 40 minutes only to find out, or forget rather, that he had motion sickness. So when he was pulled from the trunk, he was quite ill. Anyway, what were you saying?
You can't just throw that in there. Why would they do that?
It's a bachelor party.
It doesn't mean you kidnap somebody and throw them in a fucking trunk. Like, what is that? Why?
I think it's one of the better reasons for kidnapping someone.
I don't think there's a good reason, period. Also, how do you forget that one of your supposedly best friends gets motion sick?
I don't know.
I'd be pissed.
Yeah, I'd be pissed too. But then I'd have a lot of fun. But more weirdness abounds. Let's talk about the lakes. There are two at the foot of Mount Kailash. One is a Mansarovar lake, a freshwater lake. If Hindu scripture is to be believed, it was originally created within the god Brahma's thoughts and then visualized on earth. The other lake, the Rakshatal lake, which, by the way, love saying that.
Rakshatal?
Rakshatal, yeah.
Rakshatal.
Is a saltwater lake known
Okay.
as the Ghost Lake. Lake.
Like,
The lake is known as the Ghost Lake because there are no plants or wildlife in the area.
yeah, because it's salt water.
Yes, that is correct. It also has a choppy, restless sort of wave activity, where Mansarovar does not.
Wait, how is it moving?
The saltwater lake is moving.
Yeah, how is it moving?
Just, I This is not a geography podcast, so I know the answer, but we really can't get into it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Now, Mansarovar, the freshwater lake, is still. Many consider these lakes as symbols of purity and darkness, yin and yang. While this kind of geographical formation isn't unheard of, it's rare to get two lakes of that size right next to each other, especially with such different composition.
Yeah, that's crazy. Genuinely.
It's uncommon, sure, but the next few coincidences are a little more difficult to explain.
Okay.
Let's get into the satellite imagery of Mount Kailash. The satellite view of the mountain shows that the shadow side of Kailash resembles an image of Shiva's smiling face. Can we add this to the Instagram? If you look at the satellite image of the side of the mountain where it sort of is concave, there's a very clear outline of a face that looks like the face of Shiva as depicted in Hindu scripture.
That's crazy.
Very strange. That's not even the weirdest part, though.
You want to hear something stupid?
Yeah. That's what this podcast is all about.
I almost said, do you think...
No. Hardly ever.
Never. I almost asked, do you think they modeled the pictures of Shiva after the mountain? And then I realized that they wouldn't have had satellites back then to see that face in them.
That's hilarious.
So the answer is no.
Maybe someone standing really far away with great vision.
I'm still going to say no.
But I think it's probably unlikely.
Unlikely, yeah.
Yeah.
That's an inside thought.
Now, viewing the mountain's south ridge reveals a very strange eccentricity in the rock face, comprised of a huge ice trough and horizontal rock formations. Now, these comprise the Om symbol.
Wait, what?
Now, are you familiar with the Om symbol?
I'm not.
It's a sort of...
I went to a Christian school, Dylan.
Right.
I didn't learn any other things.
Outside of...
the crucifix. Very specifically.
Now, the Om symbol, if you're familiar with like meditation practices and you go, supposed to, some people speculate that it vibrates your pituitary gland and helps you to release the spiritual potential of that part of your brain.
But what is the symbol?
The symbol is it's like an O shape that's sort of disconnected in certain places, a little jagged. And more than that, it exists on the side of Mount Kailash. There are many pictures of the rock face, and they're all consistent. You see the Om symbol at the top, signifying divine energy, spiritual truth, and the universe itself. Now, we're just starting, though, and here's where we're going to get a little wild.
Oh, we're just starting.
Yes. Tibetan Buddhist texts describe a hidden land of enlightened beings called Shambhala. It's said to be ruled by righteous kings who will one day emerge to restore Dharma in the world, Dharma being the right way of living, or the path of rightness. While the location of Shambhala is unknown, some speculate it exists in the Himalayas or Central Asia, leading people to believe that Mount Kailash is somehow connected. What's more, some people believe that Mount Kailash is not a natural mountain, but an ancient eroded pyramid acting as a gateway to Shambhala.
Wait, that's sick.
Yeah. If you look at the mountain, it doesn't resemble most mountains.
Okay.
It has an interesting shape to it. And this has led some people to speculate that it is not a mountain, in fact, but some kind of man-made structure like a pyramid.
Wait, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Can we do any tests on it to see?
It's my understanding that it's very well protected by the surrounding governments.
Not allowed.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And on that point, it's led some to suggest that this is the real reason why no one is allowed to summit Mount Kailash, because it acts as a sort of gateway to Shambhala. Mm-hmm. I don't personally believe that necessarily, but what do you think, Madison? With all this strangeness, do you think Mount Kailash is mystical or just a mountain?
So here's the thing. I think this is so fascinating. I love how in most popularized religions that you hear of, there is a lot of similarities between each other that either people don't realize or they don't want to realize. So, for example, you were talking about the place where enlightened beings go. That sounds like the Christian version of heaven. Or the way that it's described could also sound like the Garden of Eden, like a paradise of sorts. So, I think those are both very interesting, similarities.
Yeah.
And I like how I think it's interesting that so many religions have these kind of like these similar themes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to point that out quickly.
Yeah, and I think as well that, you know, a lot of religions have some truth to the ideas that they have.
Yeah.
Whether it's symbolic truth or literal
Absolutely.
truth. Like, for example, the idea of Christian heaven.
Yeah.
If you are a good person, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea that if you are a good person, you will enter the kingdom of heaven. No, you're shaking your head no.
No, that is not the case. To enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to believe. So it depends on what you believe in. For Christians, you have to believe in God, and you have to believe that Jesus is the Son of God who died for your sins, if you're a Christian.
Okay.
Which is why Jesus was a Jew. Because there was no... Jesus was what made Christianity Christ.
Yes.
So, for then, I think you still had to believe in God to get into heaven. But actually, I don't know. That's a good question. That's a good question.
Would it be fair to reduce the idea down to if you're a good person, you'll get into heaven?
No.
So that's completely wrong.
No.
So heaven is like a neighborhood with a big gate around it.
Yes. My 5th grade teacher told me that one of her good friends didn't believe in God, and even though he was a really nice, lovely person who donated to charity and did a lot of really lovely things for the world and the community, he would not be getting into heaven. He would go to hell.
Oh, sucks for him.
So, no. Being a good person does not get you into heaven, traditionally, Christianity-wise. So you have... So no, that is not... Although, I believe that is where it was founded on.
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea of it was if you're a good person. And I think that's all kind of what it boils down to.
Yeah.
In some sense. I'm making it more complicated than it is. I'm getting a little too nitpicky. But I think it does boil down to, if we think back in history as well, like thinking of like the Catholic Church and like the Protestants, and like one is good, one is bad. Like the people who followed a certain thing were the good people and the other people were the bad people. So like, that's what it's rooted in. It's like, are you good and you believe in Jesus, or are you bad and you don't? And I think that's still what a lot of it, that dichotomy of good and evil is still prevalent in all religions, even if it's different in some ways. So like, while it might be a little bit different and look a little bit different for Christianity, it didn't always look that way. And I think that a lot of other religions, it's all found in the same thing. Like you have an idea of heaven where good people go, and you have an idea of hell where bad people go.
Right. Now, personally, I'm not sure where I stand. When a place is steeped in so much religious significance, it can be hard to reason. I also think that Western culture is quick to discount Eastern esotericism in favor of more dominant religious ideologies like Christianity. Mm-hmm. The pantheons of Hinduism and Jainism aren't compatible with the monotheistic worldview of the common Christian hallmark man.
Yes.
But I think there's something special about this place.
It seems special.
Yeah.
It seems like a very special place.
I think there's something special about this place, whether because it's actually true or because so many believe it to be.
I would say so.
Sources are Wikipedia, Yoga Prana Vidya, Vocal Media, Reflections Live, Great Tibet Tour.
I love that. That was amazing.
Thank you.
That was really fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's really fascinating. So, like, beyond, like, the hair growth and, like, the fast aging, like, what else have people experienced being there?
There were reports of 7 different kinds of lights shining above Mount Kailash.
What do you mean 7 different kinds of lights?
Different light phenomenon in the skies above Mount Kailash.
Okay.
Some have called it the axis mundi of the world.
What does that mean?
An axis mundi is a Latin term that translates to axis of the world and can refer to a sacred place that is believed to be the center of the world.
Gotcha.
And it's interesting because of the 4 legs that I described go in 4 of the cardinal directions.
Oh, that's fascinating.
North, south, east, and west.
Oh.
With Mount Kailash right there in the middle.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So you could see, just based on the geography, based on the religious history, the different lore sort of that surrounds the mountain, that people would have a lot of interest in this particular place and why so much mystery has risen up around it.
Yeah, 100% for sure. Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
And it's kind of hard with this kind of thing because, is there something special about this mountain? Can it be completely removed from all of its history and we look at it that way? Or is it special because of all of its history And because of that belief, it's imbued this mountain with something more mystical.
I was going to say that I think both can coexist, but what you said at the end there, like, is it mystical because people believe it's mystical? I think that has power to it as well. Like, like the energy that you put into something is the energy that it gives.
Absolutely. And on that point, something really interesting that I remember reading some time back is that when a practitioner of magic wants to curse someone, they let that person know that they have been cursed.
Yes.
And in that knowledge, maybe in that knowledge alone, that person is then subject to a lot of bad luck.
Because you're always looking for, like, you're paranoid. You're overtly paranoid. You're always looking for, like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to come your way? Yeah. So I think the opposite is absolutely true. If you say something is blessed and you believe it, you give that energy to it, then you'll start seeing those little things.
Absolutely. I've been taking to starting every day by saying, what I remember, of course, something wonderful is going to happen today.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And then throughout the day, you are waiting in anticipation of that wonderful thing, and you're far more likely to notice it.
Dylan's chair breaks right from under him.
It literally busts through and I fall on my ass.
What a wonderful thing to happen.
I finally get and I replace it with a really, really small chair.
Yeah, smallest chair you can find.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mount Kailash is definitely an interesting source of mystery for not only people in the East, but people in the West as well.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So thank you for letting me take the time to talk about that.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that. That was really interesting. Well, if you enjoyed that, please let us know. You can find us at Emmy Crisis Pod on Instagram and Facebook. You can also send us an email on myexistentialcrisispodcast@gmail.com. Dylan, where can they find you?
Marblefolk.
And you can find me at Madison Epley. Yeah, feel free to send in topic ideas if you have them, or just say hello. We're always happy to hear from you. Looking out for our next biggest fan. And
we're looking for Tucson. Yeah.
Tucson, are you there?
Susan, we'd love to hear from you.
Love you, girl.
Where are you, Susan?
Where are you, Susan? Why can't I find you?
Thanks for listening, folks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.